Hey, this is Mrs. Craig, and in this video, we're going to be talking about fraction word problems with multiplication. As we continue to talk about word problems, you're always trying to figure out what is the operation I'm being asked to use, whether it's for a single step or for a multi-step problem. In this particular case, we first want to talk about what are the key words or phrases I need to pay attention to in order to solve a multiplication problem. It can get a little bit tricky with multiplication because we're teaching you to look for a key word. And one of the key words we're teaching you to look for is of, because the word of means to multiply in many, many cases. So where it can get really confusing with a word problem is that it might tell me that I'm just looking quickly at the problem above. In this particular case, it says 3/4 of a cup of sugar. If I can easily say 3/4 sugar, then I know I'm just taking this is just talking about the unit. It's 3/4 sugar. So 3/4 of that bag of sugar I'm taking out. So I'm just starting with that. That's what I have already measured in front of me is 3/4 of that particular thing, 3/4 sugar. So what that can get confusing with is we're teaching you as fifth grade teachers to look for that keyword of. With a word problem, you have to be able to pull out which one it is. So going back to keywords, if I have blank of, in this particular big case, a batch of cookies. So blank of something. It's usually of your units or of the thing that you're really talking about. So in this case, it's of a batch of cookies. So if I'm taking a fraction, I'm just going to make up a fraction here, 1/4 of a batch of cookies. I'm taking a part of it. One thing to always remember when you're multiplying a fraction, it's a trick. You're not really multiplying. You're taking away from it. You're taking a part of something. You're taking a fractional part of it away from it. So really, you're not multiplying. You're pulling away from it. So in this case, 1/4 of a batch of cookies, I would need to multiply. Other keywords to look for are also going to go over quickly, and then you'll also be able to see it in the next problem that we're going to try after this one. So another keyword that you'll look for, I'm going to get most of it erased, not going to get all of it right now. There we go, that's a little bit better. Okay, so another keyword that you would look for are blank as many, so it might be 1/4 as many, I'll just stick with 1/4, or blank as much. So these phrases mean that I'm going to take a piece or a part of it. So if you have to pause this and write it down somewhere to help you remember that the keywords of means to multiply. Again, my whiteboard's acting a little funny. I'm trying to write the word of here, but of means to multiply. Blank as many means I'm multiplying by that fraction, or blank as much, I'm multiplying by that fraction. All right, so let's jump in to solving this problem. Let's see if I can get this erased pretty quickly for us. Now we're ready to solve this problem. Remembering that when I solve any problem for word problems, I'm going to circle keywords and numbers as I go through. Edna's lemon cookie recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of sugar. So like I talked about before, I can even say that as 3/4 sugar. That's just telling me the amount of sugar. How much sugar would Edna use to make 3/4 of a batch of cookies? So in this case, I have the 3/4 sugar. That's how much sugar that the recipe calls for, but I only want to make a part of that recipe, a portion of that recipe, which is 3/4 of the batch. So I'm going to then multiply by 3/4 of means to multiply. My denominator is already equivalent. And actually, when I'm multiplying, I don't typically write it vertically like I would for adding and subtracting. What makes a little more sense is to write it across horizontally in case you need to cross simplify. So times 3/4, 3/4 times 3/4. I look and I see if I can cross simplify. That means if I can pull anything out or divide by anything before I complete the answer, because it can make it easier as you go through any problem. So you could do traditionally where you go across. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. So I have 9/16. In this case, there's nothing to cross simplify because between my denominator and my numerator, there are no common factors for me to pull out or to divide by. So in this case, my final answer is 9/16, but it isn't just 9/16. If there are words in my problem, I need words in my answer. It's 9/16 of a batch of cookies. And I always circle or box my answer so my teacher knows exactly where to look. We're getting ready to give you another problem to try out. This next problem, it's a different set of keywords. So see if you can figure out which keywords you're looking for in order to know that you need to multiply. Try it out yourself and then by hitting pause, and then we'll go through the problem together. Let's now solve this next problem together. Dion and Brittany are collecting clothes for a drive. Brittany collected 1/8 as many clothes as Dion. If Dion collected 1/4 of a bag of clothes or 1/4 bag of clothes, how many bags of clothes did Brittany collect? So I know that for sure 1/4 of a bag of clothes is what Dion collected. And I want to know what 1/8 as many clothes as Dion collected equals. So as many as, I'm taking 1/8 of the bag of clothes. I'm taking a portion of the portion, a portion of the clothes that are already there. So 1/4 of, or 1/8 of the 1/4. I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly. But in your brain, you're taking 1/8 from the 1/4 or 1/8 of it. So I set it up and I look. There's no way for me to cross simplify. If you don't know what that means, it's okay. We'll just solve the problem by multiplying across, and then you're able to simplify at the end if you need to. But for those who understand cross simplification, I don't see any common factors between the numerator and the denominator on either side. So there's nothing for me to simplify. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 8 is 48. So my answer is 1/48. Now, it's not just 1/48. It is 1/48 what, right? You always have to ask yourself what. So 1/48 of a bag of clothes. And there is your answer. If you get a little confused about multiplying fractions, please reach out to your teacher. That is what we are here for. This is a little more difficult to do and work through, so we really want to help you with it.